All right, it is that time of year to do a flip through. I have a spring edition of the Hobonichi Cousin, so my planner actually doesn't start until April, so it's not going to be a full year flip through, and I hope you guys enjoy. I don't put anything in the covers. I am super impulsive and I change my mind a lot, and if I put anything permanent down in here, it is guaranteed I will hate it like 2 months down the road. So I challenge myself not to put anything decorative in here, and it's just better for me. So these first couple pages are going to be blank. These sticky notes are from my 12-week year video that I made, and kind of my 12-week cycles that I am doing a lot of my goal planning. This spread is the yearly calendar index page, which I have done a video on that I'll have linked above, but I use this to track my physical activity, physical movement, and then I also highlight the days to track my menstrual cycle. I really like filling this out. I think it's super satisfying to see, and it's just cool to see trends and what months are better than others. Obviously January has not started yet. These are backfilled, so for me this is January of 23, February of 23, because I had that information. So obviously I'm gonna have to figure something out when I finish this planner, but that is my calendar page. Next we get into my monthly spreads, and as we flip through kind of the beginnings of my book, a lot of my pages are heavily inspired by Megan Rhiannon. She's one of my favorite creators to watch, and I think she's super inspiring. So you'll see a lot of her Meganisms in here, and as we kind of move through the year it tailors off a little bit, but I mainly just use my calendar pages for books that I read, appointments, events. I track birthdays, things like that. And then on the outlines, I usually write down my favorite book quotes from that month, and just quotes that I find or track through like Goodreads and stuff. I will write them down. But those are my monthly pages. They're not super extravagant, and I've kind of changed how I've used them throughout the year, but I do enjoy using them. Started to paint a little bit more in my monthly calendars, which I really like. And yeah, lots of books though in here. Pretty much most of these boxes that you see filled out are gonna be book titles. And then that brings us to this month. I am planning on using this cousin through March, which I kind of screwed myself over because I started doing like planning in here for my planner that I thought I was gonna use, and I ended up not using. And so I'm gonna have to use these months, and they're already kind of like written in, which was silly of me, but I plan on getting another spring edition of the cousin when they come out, so I'm just kind of using this until they release. Then we get into the weekly pages. Again, there's a lot of Megan Rhiannon in these first couple spreads. I use my weekly spreads for a lot of my to-do lists. I like to keep my work on the right side and my personals on the left side. And then in my daily pages, I like to do kind of like memory keeping, journaling. I like to write out my feelings a lot of the times, kind of like what I'm going through, how my week is going, what's happening, things like that. And in the beginning, I used a lot of stickers and such, which worked really well in the beginning. And, you know, I was pretty consistent with my book. As we get into June, I've mentioned it in old videos. If you watched before, I'm sorry I'm repeating it, but in June, I kind of went through this depressive spiral, and I started tapering off of my planner. So this was kind of like the first week, and then I fell off completely after this. And I've mentioned it before, but I literally wrote down that I think I'm just feeling FOMO, like I think I just need to get back in my cousin and it'll be fine. And then I chose not to do that for whatever reason. So I actually went to a disc bound system for 8 weeks through Cloth and Paper, which they have beautiful products, but they're just not the right ones for me. And I kind of fell into FOMO a little bit. And so I was actually out of my cousin for 8 weeks. And then these weeks that you see are all back planned from when I came back into my book. So I kind of just journaled about how I knew I was feeling during these times. I tried to backfill some information that I had wrote in the other planner that I was using, things like that. But you'll see there's obviously no to-do list on here because I wasn't actually in this planner during then. And then this was my first week back into my cousin. So I was kind of just like testing the waters a little bit, and then I started doing my to-do list again. I work in higher education, so August is a very busy month, so I was just trying to like get my feet wet before, you know, the beginning of the year. And so you can see I start experimenting a little with sketches, and I knew I wanted to be back in my cousin, and I was super glad to be back in here, but I was still really unsure of kind of my planner style and the functionality of this. And so this week, I think was the last week that I started using stickers. And then I did my experimentation week, which I also have a video on, which I think is super valuable, but I basically did a whole bunch of experimenting on things that had ever interested me, that I had seen other creators do, or, you know, things that I thought might be fun or functional. And I started experimenting with those and testing them out in these weekly pages. And as the weeks went on, I just kind of tapered down to what worked for me and what didn't work. And so it's basically, I just added paintings, like I added more of a creative element. I moved to cursive, and then I kind of changed my to-do list a little bit, but my overall weekly layout really didn't change a whole lot from what I used to do in the past, but I just made tiny tweaks to make it work better for me. And it's what I kind of still continue to this day, and it's been really great. But I really needed an artistic outlet during these months. I was painting like every week, which has slowed down and tapered a little bit, but I changed my to-do list a little bit. I started writing in cursive, mainly so I could have a little bit more privacy, because this is also when I started YouTube, was around August, September, and so showing my book on the internet, I just wanted a little more privacy. So that is why I kind of made the full switch to cursive. It just made me more comfortable, and just lots of sketches really, and journaling. I was going through a lot of feelings during this period, so I did spend a lot of time journaling. This page I also did a video on, which I'll link up here, but my 3-year-old daughter got a hold of my book and went to town on it. That's why you've probably seen like some random scribbles throughout my book. That would be from her. So I did a video on this and just kind of like imperfection in general. And I hated this spread like the week that I was in it. Looking back, obviously hindsight, like it doesn't bother me at all. But it's always just like a good thing to talk about, and just perfection in our books and things like that. And then more weeklies. I love this little candle painting. I like doing little paintings. I only use these spaces for journaling, so if I take up a significant portion of these columns, it doesn't really bother me because I use my daily pages for journaling as well. And so I like to take up pretty big chunks of journaling. These I used with alcohol markers, and I actually drew them in a sketchbook that I had and cut them out and pasted them in here. This paper is way too thin for alcohol markers, and so I just cut them out and taped them in here, but I really like how these look. And then there's another alcohol marker drawing. So I tried alcohol markers on my hobonichi Han that I had originally bought, and the paper just doesn't absorb like water or liquid that much, and so it doesn't bleed a whole lot, but it doesn't blend very well either. So I just drew it on an extra sheet of paper, and then I cut it out and then taped it in here so I could have an alcohol drawing in here, but it doesn't bleed through. And then that takes us to the last week of December, which is the week we are currently in. I don't know if I'll do any art this week. I'm using this week kind of to just decompress and relax a little bit, but those are all my weeklies from this year. And then we'll move in the daily pages. So I started my daily pages with some reading spreads. I have not continued this year. I actually just set up a reading journal. I had started a reading log, and I just read so many books that this just became tedious to keep up with, and so I did not continue it. And then I also had a bookshelf of all the genres that I read. So depending on the genre, I would color it in with the corresponding color. Again, this just became very tedious over amount of time because I usually finish a book every 2 or 3 days, and it was just a lot of upkeep. So I did not continue that. So there are a lot of blank bookshelves right here. And then this is my book bracket, which I do really like and I keep up with. It's a really simple spread to keep up with, but it's just the book bracket for my favorite book of the year. I do not upkeep with this one. Obviously, the last time I updated it was in September. This was just like a bar graph that I was doing to see, you know, like trends and how many books that I read, and then I just hated it, to be honest, so I just stopped using it. And then this is my book cover page, which I do really like. My favorite book of every month, I will just print out a mini cover of it and tape it in here. And so these are 11 of my favorite books this year, which I definitely recommend reading if you're a reader. If you have read any of these, please let me know which ones and how you felt about them. I would love to geek out about books in the comments if you will indulge me. This was a physical TBR page, so all the books I had on my bookshelf that I had purchased and hadn't read yet, I was marking off on here. I don't continue with this one. And that one was the last book page. And then we get into like my journaling, commonplacing, memory keeping section. So this is, again, in the beginning, inspired by Megan Rhiannon. So I was tagging each journal entry with whatever category I wanted to put it under, which wasn't super beneficial to me. So you'll notice I stopped doing it after a period of time, but a lot of my daily pages are just kind of like scrapbooking and memory keeping, things like that. And I don't limit myself, or I don't force myself to do a page per day. So a lot of these pages have multiple days kind of crammed into them, and that makes it a lot more sustainable for me, and it takes a little bit of the pressure off when filling these pages out. I've tried doing a page per day, but for the A5 size, it's just a little bit too much for me with everything else going on. And so this is during the week that I fell off from my book. So this is my first entry back into my cousin. So you'll see again, as I move back, I start experimenting more, and my daily pages start looking a lot differently than when I started them. And a lot of my entries are just like me talking out my feelings. This was my experimentation week, so I tried doing a page per day. I tried doing a to-do list, a gratitude list, some painting, things like that. And you'll see it begins to taper and change a lot. I stopped doing the list. I stopped doing gratitude, things like that, and it really just turns into journaling and some sort of artistic expression or release, whatever. And a lot of these drawings in here I don't particularly like or think are very aesthetically pleasing, but my art in here is another form of journaling. It's another expression of that, and so it's not really about the aesthetic of it for me. It's mainly just about the feeling that I was able to get out of it, that like decompression or release. And so a lot of these really are just me like talking to myself and just like, you know, talking my feelings out, because I have a lot going on in my brain at all times. And really this is just like a safe space for my feelings and for my feelings to be validated by myself. And I do like to put artistic elements in there because it's visually pleasing. I'm in Aries, and so I always need something pretty and shiny to look at. I'm kind of like a goldfish. Like I just need pretty shiny things to keep me engaged. And so I like to add artistic elements into my page because it keeps me coming back to write more. This week I started experimenting with cutting the pages. I like how this looks and I want to try this more often. Just more paintings. Again, this was another scribble from my daughter, which I wrote about and I did a video about. I tried cutting a page again. I don't like cutting them half like this anymore, so I probably won't do it like that again, but I was just doing more experimenting. And then that takes us into our current week, and that is all. My back pages I just use for a lot of like YouTube video planning. I have like a lot of scratch notes in here, sketches, things like that, and so I probably won't use the rest of these pages in my book, but I like to have a space where it's a little bit more chaotic back here, and so that's all that I use for back there. And that is my 2023 hobonichi cousin. Funny story, I was actually in a hobonichi weeks January through March of 2023, and please don't judge me for this. I am kind of a dummy, and I was using my hobonichi weeks with an erasable pen, which I didn't realize was temperature reactive. And I had purchased a clear cover for my hobonichi weeks, and it was a tight fit because I had the hobonichi weeks mega. And one of the videos I watched said that if you like blow dry your clear cover or put it in the microwave, the plastic will get warm and it will, like, you know, bend around your book better. Oh my God, I don't even want to admit this. Please don't judge me for this. So I put my whole hobonichi weeks mega with the clear cover on in the microwave for like 10 seconds to like just have it mold to my book better, and I didn't realize that the pen was temperature reactive, and so when I took it out of the microwave and I opened it up, all my writing was gone. Like everything was blank except for the stickers. And so I did a bunch of research. I stuck it in the freezer, I put it in the fridge, like I did everything I could, but the pen just like did not come back normally, and I was so mad at myself, and I was so upset how I could do something so dumb that I just threw the whole book away completely. And looking back, I wish I would have saved it, but I was just so upset with myself. So I've been in a hobonichi technically the entire 2023, but I do not have January through March because in a fit of rage I threw it in the trash. But that is my embarrassing story. Feel free to roast me in the comments for that. I deserve it, and I will never use an erasable pen again because I am traumatized. That was my 2023 flip through. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you had a great 2023, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.